Imagine receiving a phone call that lasts less than 5 minutes and somehow changes the next 5 years of your life. No warning, no dramatic music, no loud argument, just a calm voice saying, "We're restructuring. Today will be your last day." And just like that, the paycheck you've quietly built your entire routine around disappears. The strange part isn't the job loss itself. It's what happens inside your mind during the next few hours. You don't immediately think about your resume. You don't think about job applications. You don't even think about your savings. You think about everyone who's depending on you. The rent, the mortgage, the school fees, the groceries, the subscription you forgot to cancel. The messages you'll have to answer when someone casually asks, "How's work going?" Suddenly, a question you've probably ignored for years becomes impossible to escape. Who am I without this job? What most people never realize is that losing a job isn't only a financial event, it's an identity event. For years, we've been taught to introduce ourselves by what we do. I'm a teacher. I'm an engineer. I'm a manager. I work in finance. Slowly, without noticing it, your job title stops describing your work. It starts describing your worth. That's why unemployment often feels heavier than the missing paycheck. It quietly convinces you that you've lost a part of yourself. And in a world where everyone seems to be announcing promotions, celebrating new opportunities, and posting career milestones online, silence begins to feel embarrassing. You start avoiding conversations. You delay replying to messages. You tell yourself you'll explain everything once you've figured it out. But the strange part is, most people aren't afraid of losing their income. They're afraid of losing the version of themselves they've spent years trying to become. That's why the first move I'd make if I lost my job tomorrow wouldn't involve my resume. It wouldn't involve investing. It wouldn't even involve searching for another job. Because before you rebuild your income, you have to stop your identity from collapsing alongside it. And that changes everything. If I lost my job tomorrow, the first thing I'd protect wouldn't be my money. It would be my time. Because panic has a strange way of making tomorrow feel like it has to be solved today. Within hours, your mind starts making dangerous promises. I'll take the first job I can find. Maybe I should empty my savings. Maybe I should sell something. Maybe I should borrow money before things get worse. Fear loves urgency. It convinces you that every decision must happen immediately. But the strange part is, the most expensive financial mistakes are usually made in the first few days after bad news. Not because people are careless, because they're scared. When your nervous system believes you're under attack, it stops searching for the best decision. It starts searching for the fastest escape. That's survival, not strategy. If my job disappeared tomorrow, I'd spend the first day creating breathing room. I'd calculate exactly how many days my current cash could realistically support me. I'd pause every expense that wasn't protecting my survival. Not because I'd suddenly become cheap, but because every unnecessary dollar I keep is another day I can think clearly instead of desperately. What most people never realize is that time is one of the most valuable financial assets you'll ever own. Money buys time, savings buy options, and options buy better decisions. The goal isn't to stretch every dollar forever. The goal is to give yourself enough breathing room so fear isn't making every decision for you. Over time, I've noticed something fascinating. People rarely make their smartest career decisions when they feel trapped. They accept jobs they hate. They tolerate toxic workplaces. They underprice their skills, not because those choices are right, but because panic makes almost any exit look like the correct one. Without noticing it, survival begins replacing intention. That's why the first move I'd make with my money wouldn't be investing it. It wouldn't be spending it. It wouldn't even be trying to multiply it. I'd use it to buy something far more valuable, a little more time to think. Because when panic loses its deadline, clarity finally has a chance to speak. And that's when rebuilding your financial life truly begins. Once you've bought yourself a little time, the third step begins. And this is where most people quietly lose the battle. Because after a few days, another voice starts to appear. It doesn't sound frightened anymore. It sounds convincing. Maybe I'm not as valuable as I thought. Maybe they were right to let me go. Maybe I'm starting over from nothing. But that's one of the biggest lies unemployment can tell you. because losing a job and losing your value are two completely different things. The strange part is, for years, many of us confuse our employer's decision with our own identity. If a company no longer needs us, we assume the world no longer needs us. But companies make decisions for countless reasons. Budgets change, markets slow down, departments disappear, technology evolves. Sometimes excellent people lose their jobs simply because a spreadsheet changed. Yet we take it personally. Without noticing it, we stop saying, I have valuable skills, and we start saying, nobody wants me. Those two beliefs create completely different futures. One person begins looking for ways to create value. The other begins looking for evidence that they failed. Over time, confidence becomes more valuable than qualifications, because confidence is what allows you to send one more application, make one more phone call, reach out to one more client, learn one more skill, try one more opportunity, not because you're certain it will work, but because you still believe you're worth the effort. If I lost my job tomorrow, I wouldn't spend my days obsessing over what I'd lost. I'd make a list of everything I still have, my experience, my ability to solve problems, the lessons I've learned, the relationships I've built, the mistakes I've survived, because none of those disappeared with my job. A company can stop paying you. It cannot erase everything you've become while working there. What most people never realize is that your greatest financial asset has never been your salary. It's your ability to create value. Money is simply one way the world rewards value. And once you remember that, losing one source of income no longer feels like losing your entire future. It simply becomes the moment you begin looking for the next place your value can grow. If I lost my job tomorrow, the fourth move I'd make would probably surprise a lot of people. I wouldn't spend every waking hour refreshing job boards. Not at first. I'd spend my time asking a different question. What problem can I solve for someone today? Because jobs disappear. Problems rarely do. And wherever problems exist, opportunity quietly follows. But the strange part is, most of us have spent so many years working inside one company that we forget how valuable our skills actually are. We stop seeing ourselves as people who create value. We start seeing ourselves as employees waiting for permission. That's an invisible trap, one that millions of people never notice until the day their security badge stops working. Without noticing it, your confidence becomes attached to someone else's payroll. Your routine becomes attached to someone else's schedule. Your future becomes attached to someone else's decision. And when that decision changes, everything suddenly feels uncertain. But what most people never realize is that your ability to earn was never locked inside that company. It was always inside you. The company was simply one place where your skills were exchanged for money. That distinction changes everything. Because instead of asking, who will hire me? You begin asking, who needs what I already know how to do? Maybe someone needs help organizing their business. Maybe someone needs a writer, a designer, a tutor, an editor, a consultant, a salesperson. Maybe someone simply needs a problem solved. The modern world rewards people who create value in countless ways. Employment is only one of them. Over time, I've realized that financial resilience doesn't come from having one secure paycheck. It comes from knowing that if one source of income disappears, you have the confidence to build another. Maybe not immediately, maybe not perfectly, but eventually. Because the person who believes they can create value will always recover faster than the person waiting to be rescued. If I lost my job tomorrow, I wouldn't spend all my energy trying to get my old life back. I'd spend it building a future where my income depends less on one employer and more on the skills, relationships, and value that no layoff could ever take away. By this point, the fear has begun to quiet down. Not because everything is suddenly perfect, not because another job has magically appeared, but because you've remembered something that most people spend their entire lives forgetting. A paycheck is not the same thing as security. For years, we convince ourselves that stability comes from employment. We tell ourselves, as long as I keep this job, I'll be okay. But history has a way of challenging that belief. Companies close, industries change, technology replaces roles, economies slow down, People who were considered indispensable one year become unemployed the next. The strange part is, the job was never the security. It was simply the source. Real security was always something much quieter. Your ability to adapt, your willingness to learn, your relationships, your reputation, your resilience. Those are the things that continue paying dividends long after a job disappears. What most people never realize is that losing a job often exposes something deeper. It reveals where you've been placing your trust. If all your confidence came from your employer, their decision becomes your identity. If all your peace came from your monthly paycheck, every delay becomes emotional chaos. Without noticing it, you've handed someone else the responsibility of making you feel safe. But real financial peace begins the day you stop believing that one company is responsible for your future. Because no employer can guarantee certainty, and neither can any economy. The only guarantee you truly have is the person you become when life stops going according to plan. If I lost my job tomorrow, yes, I'd probably be disappointed. I'd probably have moments of fear. I'd probably question myself, because that's human. But I would also remind myself of something I've learned over time. I've solved difficult problems before. I've learned new skills before. I've survived uncertainty before. And every challenge I thought would break me quietly became proof that I was more capable than I believed. Maybe that's the real first move. Not protecting your bank account, not updating your resume, not searching job boards until 2 a.m, but protecting the one asset that can rebuild everything you've lost. Your belief that your value was never printed on a paycheck. Because jobs come and go, economies rise and fall, money moves. But the person capable of creating value tomorrow is still the same person looking back at you in the mirror today. And sometimes, remembering that is the beginning of becoming financially free. Not because you'll never lose a job again, but because you'll never mistake a job for your worth again.